Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Learning Insights, brought to you by Training Pros. When you have more projects than people, Training Pros can provide you with the right L&D consultant to start your project with confidence. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Learning Insights, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our good friends at Training Pros. Without them, we could not be sharing these stories. Today on Learning Insights, we have Michelle Berlin with Mindbody. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Lee. Nice to be here.
Well, I'm excited to learn about Mindbody. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're up to?
Sure. Mindbody is a software company, and our company mission is to make sure that we're leveraging technology, and that's to improve the world of wellness and to help people to live happier and healthier lives. So a big mission. A
big mission. That's a big to-do list, I'm sure, for all you folks. Well, tell us about your role with the company.
Sure. I am the head of our people and culture team, and that is what some people would call human resources, but we have purposefully renamed our function, and that was done several years ago, to represent what we focus on, and that is the people in our organization as well as the culture.
So now when you have culture in your title, and then you've elevated that to obviously a important component of what you're up to, how do you kind of mindfully and strategically develop a good culture? How has that happened at Mindbody?
Well, it is something that we've got to be purposeful about, right? Culture is really a little bit intangible, and it's based on what people believe in. And one of our baselines are our core values. Our founders, Rick Stollmeyer and Blake Beltram, they brought that in very early into the organization. You know, they had values that they believed in, and they wanted to create an organization where people felt that they identified with those values. And that, of course, has evolved over time. And our core values are weaved really throughout all steps in the employee life cycle. We use it in our hiring practice. We use it when we're looking at developing our talent, weaving it into our learning and training modules. We look at it when we're thinking about promoting people, and it's a very active part of our organization. So that's one element of our culture. Another thing is that we are focused on how to create something where people feel, an organization where people feel they belong, and that it's an organization where they're empowered and they can be innovative. And that has some strategic pieces to it, like you said, and then we do a whole host of things to ensure that that's happening in our company.
Now, culture is one of those things that whether you work on it or not, it's going to happen. So it's better, I think, to have some intentionality behind it and to have some kind of strategy behind it. In your organization, you're a global company. How does some of those culture, when you're trying to create a culture, how does it translate into different cultures? Like when you're working all around the world, is it possible to create a mind-body culture that permeates anywhere you're at, or is it something that has to be kind of tweaked for the different locales that you serve?
It's probably a little bit more of the latter of what you asked. So when we think about culture, we do want to have similar experiences, some consistency across the four countries that we operate in. So we operate in the United States, we have offices in the United Kingdom, we have an office in Australia, in Sydney, and then we have one of our newest offices, a couple years old, is in Pune, India. And we do want to think about kind of an umbrella of how are we going to operate, how do we want to treat each other, how are we going to interact, and what are those expectations. And again, I'll go back to our core values. That's something that we can use in all of those locations and make sure that we're bringing people into the organization that identify with those values, that are also excited about our mission and are wanting to be involved in what we're producing as an organization. But there is, of course, we've got to think about the nuances. Even within the U.S., you're going to have some different nuances and flavors depending on what part of the U.S. you're in. And so when we expand that and think about what is it like in India, what is it like in Australia, yeah, there are tweaks. There are definitely tweaks to make them more meaningful to the employees that are there, to make sure that we're also thinking about, what are the cultural norms in that location or in that country. But again, I want to go back to that, having that umbrella, or having that foundation, if you will, both, so that we make sure that our team members are wherever they are, they feel like they're at Mindbody. Of course, that's been very interesting in the time that we're in now, where all of our team members are working from home.
So now, was that a big shift? Were you primarily previously everybody go to the office kind of company, and now it's pretty much everybody's remote?
It was a big shift. We had about 10% of our population that we would have classified as working remote, not tied to a particular office. And so last year, when the pandemic heated up in the way that it did in the March timeframe, we had already been thinking about creating some additional flexibility with our work assignments, work arrangements, but we definitely accelerated that. First of all, we had everybody go home because we wanted to make sure that our employees were safe and could protect their health. And then we started to evaluate, okay, well, when things are able to open up, and of course, we keep getting more information about that as the year unfolded, but we wanted to think about how can we accelerate that idea of having more flexibility in the workforce, in the workplace, right? Allowing more people to work from other locations that are not necessarily the offices that we had, or some of our team members are interested in being able to come into to the offices some of the week, but maybe not the full 5 days. So we've already communicated to our team that will be an option, what we call a hybrid option. And then there are people that really want to be in an office full time, or that have a kind of job where that's needed for them to be in the office full time. So we definitely pivoted and made sure that we were thinking about all those things, even though as of today, we are still not back in offices, all of us.
Now, were there some things you had to do differently in terms of maintaining that culture and the kind of camaraderie of that in-person experience that maybe historically had been the case pre-pandemic? And maybe how did that apply to onboarding a new employee, even mentoring, where some of those things where sometimes people were benefited from just being next to each other and kind of those serendipitous collisions that used to happen, that, oh, you're working on this, I'm working on this, and all of a sudden now you have a new thing where you got to kind of fit that into a remote environment, and that's a little tricky.
Yes, we, like all kinds of companies around the world, right, we had to get very creative and start thinking differently about how to create some of those connections. We are, as a wellness company, focused on the 7 dimensions of wellness. That social and social wellness is an element of that, and that's being able to connect with people. And so we've done a number of different things. One thing that we did was make sure that we increased our communication, and that was from the top down, if you will. So we have increased our company all hands. We are doing those every 4 to 6 weeks now. We really try to hear from the organization what is most top of mind for them. Part of that's being able to share information, but also addressing topics that are very meaningful to the team. We looked at how we could change our learning opportunities. We definitely are a company that invests in our team in terms of their development and their growth and their continuing to learn and be trained in things. And so our learning and development team had to think about how to be able to offer certain classes that were more in person, and then how to do that differently using technology and not being in person. We have a weekly managers meeting that we inserted a manager learning segment, if you will. We've been doing that on a monthly basis, and really impressing on our managers to make sure that they're connecting with their team members. Hopefully that was already part of their practice, but being able to do that on a regular basis is really important. And not only checking in on what's the work that's happening and where are you at with your work, but also checking in on well-being and how people are doing and if they're able to connect with the resources that they need. So those are some of the things that we did around communication and learning. Another thing is that we've, as a wellness company, for many years, we've done a wellness challenge, and it's kind of changed every year. It has a little bit different look and feel. Well, this year, of course, we weren't able to do it in person. And so our team was able to pull off a virtual wellness challenge, which was really fun. Fun is also a big part of our environment. And it was an opportunity for us to, challenge each other playfully. We kept that wellness challenge very open in terms of taking steps, riding your bike, prepping good meals, meditating, yoga, all kinds of things could count towards the steps or the miles that we were collectively as an organization achieving to meet. And then, we did some other things to think about mental well-being. I think many of us are aware of how that has been part of our culture, but been part of our global culture, but is also, on the rise. And so we wanted to make sure that we are addressing some of those things with our team. So we added a well-being day last year. We've added a volunteer day, people feeling very passionate about being able to help others that are less fortunate or help other organizations that they feel really connected to. And so those are some of the things that we've done and many, many more.
So now, obviously, when you forecast into this year, it's only January, so the 2021, the remote work obviously is part of that. Is there any other kind of workplace trends that you're keeping your eye on or that you're seeing kind of develop because of what we've gone through?
Yeah, I would say the remote work is a big one. Even as I mentioned, with us returning to when we're able to open up offices again, when that's safe, there'll be some transition there, and we'll need to make sure that we're thinking about how we support people that aren't in offices, and we don't lose sight of people that aren't in offices. Like you said earlier, sometimes that proximity can give people more opportunity, and so it's really important for us to pay attention to that. The recruiting side is it opens up a whole other pool of candidates that we maybe weren't looking at before or didn't have access to before because we were requiring people to be in our offices. So that's exciting for us because our diversity priority or prioritizing diversity and inclusivity is something that we're doing. And so that opens up, a bigger pool of candidates in that way. And the other thing is, I mentioned, mental wellness, mental well-being, and that's something that I think we're going to see employers need to think even more holistically about employees. I think for a long time, it was just focused only on what you did at work, and then over time, think that has the lines have sort of blended more, if you will. And now I think as an organization, we do have to consider that whole holistic view of people that are working for us and the things that they're up against. For example, parents, of course, right now with so many schools still being closed and having to do remote learning, we wanted to provide some additional services or additional support for parents. 5 years ago, we might not have even considered quite that, or 10 years ago, maybe I wouldn't have considered that in my role. But so I think that's another trend to be aware of, and those are the things that are top of mind for me right now.
Now, how are you? You mentioned the word balance earlier. How are you handling some of this kind of Zoom fatigue, where people are always feeling that they have to be on camera and ready to go, and that their day is kind of, they might have got rid of their commute, but it seems like their day just lengthened in terms of how available how easy it is to be available remotely. So their day has actually expanded because of that. How do you kind of create a balance for your employees so that they don't feel like they have to, kind of be on the clock at all times?
Yeah, that is a real challenge. We've done a few things and are continuing to kind of tinker with all of that. First of all, the relationship between a manager and a direct report is really the most important connection that somebody has in an organization in terms of how they feel and their engagement in an organization. So giving the permission, if you will, and I don't mean that in like an autocratic way, but in terms of making sure that our managers are thinking about the well-being of our team members, and that they are creative and when they need meetings, who needs to be in meetings, how many people are in meetings. These are conversations that we've been having. We're also reintroducing, kind of best meeting practices. Like anywhere else I've ever worked, you kind of put, we did some training a couple of years ago around how to do meetings very effectively. And then, that sort of has loosened over time, and people don't necessarily follow some of those things. So we're, reintroducing that to help people be as efficient as they can be on, on a screen, so that we can, carve down the amount of time that people are spending on it. Also encouraging managers to, to make sure that our, I call them team members, as you can tell, I'm so used to that, our employees or team members are, know that it's important, and that they can, take a lunch, unplug from Slack, put on the channel that they're out, that they're not checking email, not checking Slack at that time. And then also to encourage that people take time off. I think that's another thing that has been a challenge in this last year with, not even being able to go to, I don't know, wherever, San Francisco or, Las Vegas or wherever it is, right? People not being able to just even travel in the ways that they were able to before, or get away for a weekend. I think we've got to encourage our team members to actually unplug and take that time off. And we've been reiterating that. I was in a leadership meeting yesterday, just saying the same thing, making sure that we're doing those kinds of things.
Now, you mentioned that kind of opening up your employees to the remote work arrangements where they can be now they can live anywhere and still be part of the team. That you felt that that's going to help from your equity, diversity, and inclusivity kind of initiatives that you guys have. Are there any other kind of almost, I want to call them unintended consequences, or maybe silver linings in having gone remote that has come up because of the pandemic, that maybe you think that can stretch beyond the pandemic?
Well, I think the flip side of being on a video conference, whether it's Zoom or something else, right? Being on that on a regular basis, there is something about kind of leveling the playing field, if you will. Like everybody is on the same thing at the same time, right? For example, I have a team where one of my direct reports is in London, and it used to be that 5 of us would be in a room and he would be up on a screen on a wall. Well, there was never a way that it was still, that he had a like experience. So being able to work with your colleagues or, peers, direct reports, whatever it is, I think that's one of the, silver linings, if you will. And in my, crystal ball, which I don't have, but, pretend, I don't see that we will, at least at Mindbody, we're not going to go back to where everybody's in an office. So learning how to incorporate that experience is going to be really important, or not losing sight of that. The other thing I would say is that I think there's sort of mixed reviews around productivity in this new environment. I've read things and I've talked to other colleagues outside of Mindbody who have said that they've seen some of the productivity go down because of some of the challenges people have working from home. And of course, I'm sure there are pockets of that at Mindbody, but overall, as an organization, in terms of what we, the changes that we needed to make in 2020 from our product development standpoint, from the number of people in our organization, I'm so really impressed by how the team has been able to rally and really lean in and make things happen. And we've been able to, move much more quickly towards rebounding in the ways that we've been able to in our market because of that team member commitment. So I think I might have lost track of your question, but hopefully that was on point.
That was very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about Mindbody's employee resource groups. How has that impacted maybe the culture? And is there any kind of measurable results when it comes to your work in EDI?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we're talking about this. This is a big part of our organization, and it's been our what we call EDI. That's what we call it. I know other organizations call it other things, but we've been on that journey probably since the beginning. But really, again, got much more focused and intentional on it. Probably about 4 years ago, and that came out of a group of employees starting, at the grassroots level, wanting to come together. People that had a commonality wanted to meet and kind of share their experiences, and that was a group of women in our technology and our development part of the organization. And so in 2017 was when we actually launched our first ERG, which was our Women in Technology. And then we added 2 more in 2018. We have a Pride group, so that serves our LGBTQ plus community. We have a group that focuses on veterans in the US. We have a group that focuses on differently abled and access, and that group is called Alliance. And then just this year, they started working on this at the end of last year, but just this year we launched another group called Black Alliance, focused on our team members, our Black team members. And then we also have a group that's called Mindbody United. So right now we have 6 ERGs, and the impact to our culture is, I would say, it's been a really positive impact. And there have been ebbs and flows in terms of involvement and interest and all of that. But our EDI program is something that we're committed to. Each ERG each employee resource group has an executive sponsor. The leaders of those ERGs, we're very excited to have involved. It's an opportunity for us to hear from the organization in a different way. We get feedback. There's some, synergies and some development opportunities for them as well. And then in terms of impact, one of the things that we're focused on is, increasing our representation, both our female representation as well as our underrepresented minorities. And so we've got a number of things that we're focused on there, and we're starting to see some movement. We've done a whole host of things to try to impact this area, and we found that some of them have been successful, and we continue to do, and some of them are, we tried things that maybe didn't work as well as we thought they would. But I just feel super fortunate to be involved in an organization that's so committed to this. It's been part of my professional life, and and I've been in people and culture or human resources for a long time. So I feel very proud to work for a company who's so committed.
Now, regarding your ERGs, are they something that kind of leadership says, let's start one for this group, or is it something that kind of goes from the grassroots up and says, hey, we would like to start a group, and then there's kind of energy from grassroots rather than from leadership?
It's from the employees. It's really based on employee interest, employee passion, and wanting to build a group that can connect. And so the process for us is, typically we'll have an employee or several employees that are interested, and they've either brought it to my team, to people and culture, and started to have a conversation, or they might connect with a particular executive and see if, and try to get some guidance there. We are in the process of hiring a director for our EDI program. And so that will be the conduit, that will be the person in our future that will be the, person that a group or a single employee that's interested in starting an ERG could connect with. And so it's a grassroots effort for sure. And we do want to, strike some balance as well. We're, our company, we have about 1,500 employees in those 4 countries. And so, to have 20 ERGs with that size of employees, that number of employees will be too diluted, right? So we want to strike some balance there, but it definitely comes from employee interest and passion.
Well, congratulations on all the success with that. That sounds like it's going extremely well for you guys.
I think so. I mean, like I said, we've definitely learned some things along the way, and we will continue to learn. And, I'll circle back to one of our core values being consciously evolving. And it is something that we want to continue to focus on. We want to, make improvements. And when we do something, we try something and it doesn't really engage people, or maybe we have a partnership that doesn't work out as well or something like that, we want to continue to evolve and look at what we can do different and better the next time.
Well, you recently won the Bloomberg's gender, or you were included in the Bloomberg's Gender Equality Index. Can you talk about first what that is for folks who don't know and why this was so important to you?
Sure. Bloomberg's Gender Equality Index is for public companies, and it's companies that are committed to transparency in reporting their data. So it was important for us because one of the ways that an organization can improve and can make some movement and can make some progress, if you will, is to be able to measure what's happening, right? I mean, we're in the business world, and part of being in the business world is looking for results and looking for, how do you measure what your results are? And so, being able to apply and to be considered for the Bloomberg GEI was really important to us. And they look at 5 different areas. They look at leadership and talent pipeline. They're looking at whether your environment, whether your company has an inclusive culture. They do look at your policies around preventing harassment and discrimination. They're very focused on whether or not you have a brand that is that focuses on women as well. And then they also look at whether or not you have equal pay and gender pay parity. So I was really pleased that we had the award. It was something that happened when we were public, and we have moved back over into being a private company at this point. So maybe sometime in the future, if that ever changes, we'll be able to seek that recognition again. But really, still proud of the work that we did to get us to that point.
Well, how could we help you? What is it that Mindbody needs right now? Do you need more talent? You need more clients? What does it look like, and how could our audience help you?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. You all could help by, yes, we really would love it if you would download, if you're a consumer, if you would download our app. It's called the Mindbody app, and you can find that in the Apple Store, and I'm going to blow it, in the Google Store. You can tell I'm an Apple user. That would be great. So if you're a consumer, please do that. If you are interested in what we're doing at Mindbody and want to join our team, please go to our website and look at our current opportunities at mindbodyonline.com. Look for our careers page. We are looking for talent in all parts of our organization. We are a very dynamic and collaborative and fast-paced and fun organization. So please consider that. Those are some of the things that you could do to help.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing your story today. And the website again is mindbodyonline.com. Is that right?
That's right.
Thanks again for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Lee. It's been such a pleasure. Thanks for your time. I enjoyed the conversation.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Learning Insights. And remember, this work could not be done without our good friends at Training Pros. Please support them so we can continue to share these important stories.
Thank you for listening. For more information about Training Pros, visit their website at training-pros.com.